Hello everyone, and welcome to Mer Hersoner Podcast, Season 3, Episode 24. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. It's Thursday, May 4th. May the 4th
be with you.
2023. I'm your host, Vic and as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Mr. Mike Balyan, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different people, eras, and topics. Please hit that like button. And make sure you share it with friends and family. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. This will be our last episode for Season 3.
Dun, 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 dun.
We're just doing a Star Wars theme today? Okay. We'll be taking some time off to do more research, put more programs together. As you all know, we have other projects on the side that we're working on, which we'll announce as they come to maturity.
Yes.
And so make sure you're following us on Instagram at Mer Hersoner. That's where we most of the time do our announcements.
We'll be trying to stay active.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody who's joining us live on YouTube and Facebook. Feel free to discuss in the chat. And as we're having our conversation, ask questions.
It's going to be an interesting topic. I think something we are, for the most part, all of us have in common.
Yes. We're all guilty of it.
Yes.
And
I mean, not you. Don't say guilt. Something's guilty of, but I mean, we all have that in common.
Of course.
And I'll let you go ahead and make that proper introduction.
Yes. So today's guest is an author who wrote a book called White Genocide, explaining the origins of it and providing solutions. Artashes Keshishyan, who will be joining us via video from Canada. And the topic, as you can see in the title, is Assimilation of basically Armenian diaspora and Armenia as well.
Which is what we have, which is what we all have.
Yeah.
A lot of us have in common.
But before we bring our guest on, a couple of announcements. As most of you know, that we premiered our Mer Talk event that was recorded on March 30th.
The 30th.
And that was filmed at the AGB Cultural Center in Pasadena with Dr. Gevorg Nazarian. So those of you who haven't watched it, please, after the show, go watch it. Share it with friends. We want this to get a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs on it, because we will be continuing this series of Mer Talks. We're hopeful to do another one probably sometime late August, early September. We're working on the details, and we'll let you know once that is set up.
And usually with things that have a lot of heavy information, it's not a bad idea. I'm guilty of it. I watch it over and over again because it helps you absorb.
Yeah.
Like watching a movie a couple times.
Well, besides editing it and watching it for 2 weeks.
I mean, I think you've already gotten enough here.
But no, I went back and wanted to watch it on the TV just to kind of get the, because when you're editing, you're doing chopping it here and there, you're jumping back and forth, so it's a different experience. One thing I want to mention is, as you guys know, in February we announced that when you order our sculptures by using the promo code Artsakh, all capital letters, you will get 10% off, and we will match that 10% and donate it to support our heroes. So from February, March, and April, we had a little bit over $4,500 worth of sales that came in. So the 10% of it, and every 3 months we are paying them out. So it came out to about $455, which is less than what we want, but it is what it is. We appreciate everybody who is supporting us. Some people forgot to use the actual promo, so we had to match it anyways.
Did you hack it?
Yeah, I hacked it. So, but yeah, we just donated that first portion. So again, we really encourage everybody to go purchase these sculptures. And the reason I bring it up is because we are announcing the bronze version. I don't know if you want to hold it up closer to the camera, maybe.
One at a time.
Yeah, so this is Gomitas. Something about the bronze brings out the details a lot more. I know a lot of people have been asking about it. So these are the samples that we have. We will be having these available to purchase hopefully next week. We're working on it. We'll have stock very soon. And
I'm even impressed by the bronze.
Yeah. And they'll go out as soon as you order them. So we'll announce all that stuff on Instagram. So please go ahead and use that promo code, because it really helps us, and we're giving back. We love the organization of Support Our Heroes. They do amazing work. We've had one of their founders here who was on the show. Vegan.
Yes.
Yeah. Vegan was on the show, and we had
that guy's whole life has been dedicated to helping Armenia and Artsakh.
Go watch that episode. It was a great episode. Yeah. And obviously with the situation right now, it's very difficult for them, but they're still moving forward with the projects. They're getting it done. So we appreciate any help you guys can provide. And then the other thing I want to mention, the animation series Forgotten Thrones is green lighted. It's going forward. And we...
Do you want to talk about that?
Not in detail, but basically everything, let's put it this way, all the pieces...
Can you tell from the smell and some good things are happening.
All the pieces fell into place. Yes. We have some amazing people who have joined the project. Yes. And as soon as the audio is recorded, the production end of the animation will begin, and we're hoping to have this done sometime mid-summer, and we'll announce the release of it. So, but that's anything else you want to mention before I bring our guests on?
No.
Okay, that is it as far as announcements go. Like I said, our guest is Artashes Keshishyan, who will be joining us live from Canada, and we're going to be discussing the assimilation of Armenian language, traditions, music, everything. Yeah. So, all right. So everybody, welcome Artashes Keshishyan. Hi, Artashes.
Hi, Artashes.
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you.
Welcome to the Mer Hersoner podcast.
Welcome to Los Angeles via video call.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. No, not at all. Thanks for being with us. I know it's past 10 o'clock there, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us on a Thursday night. I was introduced to you through a mutual friend, and you wrote a book which is very interesting. It really highlights a major, call it an issue within the diaspora in Armenia, of the assimilation that we have happening with the current generation, and even in the past. We may have not paid attention to it, but it did happen.
It's right under our noses.
Yeah. But before we get into the conversation, I wanted to, for our audience to get to know you, if you can give us a small biography about yourself, where you were born, where you were raised, how you ended up in Canada, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. So my name is, as I said, Artashes Keshishyan. I was born in Aleppo, Syria. I'm 22 years old. 7 years ago, me and my family immigrated to Canada because of the civil war there. And as of that date, I'm residing in Canada. I study at university. I'm a university student, and as you said, an author. I'm interested in Armenian culture. I try to learn more things as I go by from experts or reading books. Even learning the language. There are some words that I don't know the Armenian word for them, and I keep learning it. That's for my introduction. I can go over the name of the book. Some people may not be familiar with it. So, the White Genocide, I translated it from the Armenian Spidak Teaspanutyun.
I see.
It's a term I didn't come up with. It's been used to describe the culture genocide that take place in the Armenian nation, as opposed to the bloody genocide. By Spidak or White, it seems like as if it's not a big deal. It's not bloody. Spidak can sometimes also mean transparent, so we're not always aware of it.
Yeah, there's a symbolism behind the title.
Yes.
Yes.
And also Monte Melkonian has used it also. His brother, in his biography in this book, he says that he usually referred to it as the White Massacre, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, of course.
That's where the title comes from.
Okay. Now, a little bit of a controversial question. Did you get any type of pushback from because when you translate it to White Genocide, it can be, to someone who doesn't know the translated version of it or even the history behind it might take it the wrong way.
Yeah. Yes, I'm aware that some racist groups use it as it's a conspiracy theory about white people getting massacred or something. But the Armenian use of it goes back older than that. That's why I used it. But I explain in the book that that's what I'm referring to, not racist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to post a link here. This is, you guys can scan this and get the book from Amazon. Support Artashes, read the book. We're going to cover some of it here, but we encourage everybody to purchase the book, read it, and learn more about this assimilation that we have happening within our culture, and he also provides solutions of how to prevent it, I guess, if that's the right way to say it. But okay, so let's start our conversation. Take it away, Mr. Mike.
All right. So first and foremost, I guess, look, I'm born and raised here, right? So I'm guilty of meshing a lot of English words with a lot of Armenian words. Okay. Some of us here tend to make fun of it and call it Armenglish.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you describe, I guess let's call it like the current state of assimilation with foreign words and break it down between the two main dialects, Eastern and Western Armenian, and what where they draw their influences usually from, as we've noticed?
Yes. So when you ask that question, it's quite a general question. You have to be specific to each community. So, for example, in the Western world, if you generalize it, obviously we're better than other communities. Some communities, like, let's say, some Assyrian communities don't even speak the language anymore in this Western country. So we're definitely better than other communities in terms of being less assimilated, but still the new generation, I can see, like, I can give the example of my own city here in Toronto. Most Armenian kids don't speak Armenian. Some of them may be fluent in it, but there's this tradition of they speak in English. They don't even speak the language. In terms of using Armenian words and English words simultaneously, that happens all the time. They speak half the sentence in Armenian than the other.
Sometimes.
Which can be, someone can learn, which is not that, I'm not saying that he's a bad person or anything, but they can definitely learn that. In the Middle Eastern countries, the same happens to a lesser degree, but they use Arabic words. I used to be like that, but after moving to Canada, I started avoiding that and using Armenian ones, but I still learn. It's a long life struggle that we go through. So that's for the Western and Middle Eastern Armenians. In terms of, we can't generalize into Western Armenian, Eastern Armenian, because again, depends on what community you talk about. For example, if you focus on the Eastern Armenians, the ones who live in Iran, they speak very good Armenian. They very rarely use foreign terms, but if we compare that to Armenians from Russia, for example, most of them don't even speak the language.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
They just speak Russian. If we compare another community, the Armenians in Turkey, modern day Turkey, again, you have to compare the Hamşenahais, for example, differently than the ones who live in Bolis.
Interesting.
So, for example, the hidden Armenians, or Zeptial Hayer, before I want to show this book. Actually, I'm reading it currently, Secret Nation by Avedi Sajian. It's a great book. It's quite long, about the hidden Armenians, the Zeptial Hayer, who were forcefully forced to either change their religion or stop being Armenian so that they don't get killed in the genocide.
Yeah.
So about hidden Armenians, 99% is assimilated. Some of them don't even know that they are Armenians. But for the Bolis Armenians, again, most of them are assimilated. Most of them don't speak Armenian, unfortunately. So that's the general picture in terms of the Armenians living in the diaspora.
Really quick, for any of our non-Armenian speaking audience, Bolis is a term we use for Constantinople or Istanbul. Just to let you guys know, it's just a term we use. Bolsahai or Bolisihai is basically a term we use because that's what we referred to as Constantinople or Istanbul.
Great point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
Let's say it.
That's why we have you as a co-host.
I mean, are you making fun of me?
No, not at all. It's the last episode.
Because I know we have listeners who are not Armenian.
No, I'm thank you.
Cheers to you guys.
But I mean, can you bring examples for example, what type of words they might have used from all these different regions?
Yes. So in the Western world where English is used, for example, they would say, they would use the word wait for a lot. Instead of saying like spasegam, spasir, they say wait, bidikam, for example.
Yeah.
Or they say for hello, they don't use parev. They say hi or hello. That's two examples. Some of them use like words that are even we are not familiar with Armenian. For example, democracy kuzeng. They say something.
Yeah.
Saying kuzeng. So in the Western world, it's words like this, basic words that some of them know the Armenian word, but they just don't use it because it's been like a tradition. Like, for example, in my example, in our family, we speak Armenian only. That's the tradition. If one day I speak English with my father, he'll be like, why is being so weird? You understand? So
yeah,
that's what's happening. In terms of Middle Eastern Armenians, they would use Arabic words, as I said. So they would say yalla instead of saying
oh yeah,
or inshallah, they say. Maybe if God wills. Other words, some of them say hamdulillah, which is parkastuzo, praise to God. Something good happens. So basic words like this, they use it on a daily basis. My family uses it as well, but I'm trying to tell them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you brought up a great point about the having that tradition, or call it maybe some kind of a rule to speak Armenian in at home, which is something I currently am experiencing and having difficulty with my children. It's just even for me, in my daily life, I'm constantly speaking English because of my environment, and then you get home, you try. But living here for 30 plus years, it becomes like second nature. It's easier, right? Yeah. Even though I always ask myself, do I think in Armenian and then but no, that changed. I think in English But if I need to think in Armenian, I will.
Yeah, but
there's this constant war within me going on, trying to balance both of them. But then, we are constantly telling our kids, speak Armenian, speak Armenian, speak Armenian, speak Armenian. But then we get caught all of a sudden switching to English, and they look at me like, okay, you just spoke English, So it's very difficult. But it's something that needs to be a very strong rule, I guess, and you have to work at it.
But does this ever happen to you naturally, where if you're speaking to someone, let's say from Armenia, your Armenian kicks in?
Yeah.
It's subconscious. It's complete subconscious. You're not intending to. It just happens.
Perfect example.
When you're speaking to someone, let's say they're from LA or from the US, doesn't matter where.
Yeah.
You'll start mixing Armenian words with English words, and that's it.
Yeah. And I'll give you a perfect example. A couple of days ago, I had a phone call in Armenia. And
you didn't say a word of English.
Maybe I might have said okay.
Okay, but that's normal.
Yeah, but it was just pure Armenian. So I wanted to ask you, as far as assimilation of these foreign words, how are they affected overall the structure and the grammar, both in Eastern and Western Armenia?
Yes. In terms of grammar, I would say in terms of syntax, which is the order of words, I've heard some people speak Armenian as if they're speaking English. For example, they would say, Arach for come, before I come, I will drink water or something. Instead of saying, Chikales Arach chur. They speak as if they're like translating in their minds the English words they have into Armenian, and they speak the language.
Yeah. See, it's same thing happens with the same thing. My mom sometimes will tell me, you're thinking or translating from English to Armenian.
Yeah.
In the order of the words.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, I don't think I do that much, but I mean, my kids, sometimes when they speak, especially my son, I love him to death, but sometimes he'll translate it and speak, and you're like, what did you just say? And he knows that, but he's trying. I mean, he's only 8 years old. So, but no, go on. Yeah, you're completely right.
So in terms of syntax, mostly, the order of words, they use the order of words as if they're speaking English with Armenian words. Other aspects of grammar, like suffixes, no, that's not affected with this. Only syntax is what I'm noticing.
Okay. Like, see, we here in LA, I think we have maybe the largest concentration of Iranian Armenians. Possibly. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just going off of the assumption that we do have a lot. They use a lot of Farsi words.
Yeah.
They mix a lot of Farsi words with Armenian.
Yeah.
And in the way they pronounce their Armenian, we all know is a little bit different, and it sounds more like Farsi.
Yeah. It has that stretch in it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a stretch usually at the end of the sentence or a phrase or whatever the case is, which is very similar to Farsi.
Yeah. Now, what about East? I know we're saying diaspora here, but what about other countries? Let's say Syria or Lebanon or even Armenia itself, Eastern Armenian. Seems like there's an assimilation that has taken place even from the 18th to 19th to 20th century, now in the 21st century.
Yes, focusing on the countries you mentioned, so starting with Armenia, obviously people would be shocked that they would think there's no assimilation in Armenia in terms of linguistic assimilation. Well, actually there is, unfortunately, again, in terms of using foreign words. And this happens intentionally. For example, people use the word informația instead of deregutun. Or suveren daratsk instead of inknavar daratsk. Things like that. And unfortunately, it's getting worse and worse. Like the Armenian words exist. If people just use the Armenian words, it's fine. It would be great. That's the assimilation degree there. It's using foreign words of Latin origin mostly.
Yes.
So that's in the case of Armenia. In terms of, let's say, Syria and Lebanon, Relatively, there's less assimilation there, but still, as I said, they use Arabic words. It's not as bad as the assimilation degree in Western world, but they still, some people still use Arabic words like the ones I mentioned.
Yeah, I've been guilty of using some Arabic words.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, because our families are from Syria.
Yeah, again,
and
right? My dad's side,
But
like we were talking about earlier.
in Armenia, you have the Russian influence as well.
Yes.
I mean, till this day, I myself use words that are in Russian that are so. I mean, they're part of my language, and I don't even think of them as Russian. I think of it as being Armenian, but it is.
Sometimes Russian. You might actually go all 3, 4, 5 ways, man, in one sentence.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true. I'm serious. Mm-hmm. It happens.
Yes, that's the worst part, that in the Armenian, the assimilation taking place in the Republic of Armenia is the new generation doesn't even know that these are foreign words. They just see it written in Armenian, and that's an Armenian word.
Yeah, there's tons of words. I mean, even recently, I forgot who it was. I was speaking to one of my friends who's just came out and mentioned it. Oh, by the way, that's a Turkish word. That's a so-and-so word. I was like, really? Is it?
Yeah.
And you get into like an interesting debate and you try and educate yourself about this further. But it's amazing how many words, even coming out of Armenia, that we use, like people who are born and raised in Armenia are using, that are from the surrounding areas.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something that caught my attention. You said it's intentionally being done. Can you elaborate that?
So there's this idea, even people who immigrate newly to Western countries, like the case from Syria, for example, they have this bizarre idea that if they use English words, somehow they look more cool. There's that notion. In Armenia as well, if they use like foreign words, they will be viewed as more like intellectual, or that's
or advanced.
yeah, unfortunately. But using words of another language has nothing to do with being smart or something. That's the reason that it's intentional. So, for example, let me give you another example of the Syrian Armenians who immigrated to Canada. Most of the people who are of my age, again, they intentionally use English words to look cool like the other ones here. The same thing. Some people were even changing intentionally the syntax, which is funny. Wow. They speak Armenian pretty well, but again, there is that notion that you look cool if you get assimilated, basically, or for them to get in.
Now, have you looked into the psychology behind this, as far as why that is? I mean, is it also part of it is, besides looking cool, fitting in, is it something of almost, I don't know if, like kind of running away from your identity?
Yeah, psychologically, we can say maybe it has to do with our history of genocide, the wars that happened, and the defeats we got 3 years ago. Maybe it has something to do with that. Like some people, maybe they're getting ashamed of their identity because of that. That's one reason. And second reason, as I mentioned, for them to fit in that society, for the kids who have been born here, obviously they speak Armenian with English words in it. So the newer ones who came here, they want to fit in with them.
Mm-hmm.
As I say in the book, instead of them encouraging the ones who were born here to speak Armenian, they actually did the opposite. They themselves have become like them. So the psychology is getting fitted into that society, or being cool. Oh, everyone wants to be cool. There's nothing wrong with that, but unfortunately, it has taken into this assimilation issue.
Now, this is something that we're very aware of, that happens that's been happening more or less over the last, I want to say prominently 20, 25 years, right? Ever since the Soviet collapse specifically.
Yeah.
Which is way after the genocide. Now, I want to go back in the past. Genocide era, pre-genocide era, when people were migrating away. Is there any information that you can give us on where most of the assimilation occurred? Because I know with Gevorg, we've talked about how there was a lot of migration, some migration, not a lot, to the States, maybe to Russia, but not as much as today.
Yeah.
Right. So what was the most concentrated area back then? Right. You're talking about a lot of the Arab nations, I guess. Let's call
even
it that.
Turkey, right? Even
I mean, Turkey. Yeah, that's an obvious thing. We've discussed that a bunch of times. But I'm curious if, let's say, you have any or have looked into how, as generations have gone about from the past, from the genocide era, let's say 100 years ago, if you've, through your studies or through what you found, if people have kind of found themselves reintegrating, call it that, I guess, the lack for a better word.
Yeah, after the genocide, we see that in some of the communities that exist today exist because of that genocide. Like the examples of Syria, Lebanon, France, United States as well. There are some examples with families that have immigrated during the genocide and still today they speak Armenian perfectly, which is astonishing. And there are others who have been assimilated completely today. So that's the only thing I do. I've looked at. I haven't gone into depth into what has happened back then.
I met an individual recently, no joke, probably the last couple weeks. He claimed he was quarter Armenian from Fresno. Doesn't speak a word of Armenian, but his family has been in Fresno for like 80 years.
But he's a quarter Armenian.
He's a quarter Armenian, but like, I guess he had original family members from what he was telling me. Well, maybe, I don't know, let's call it 100 years ago, or whatever the case is, but does not speak a single word of Armenian. And I asked him about his family. His family barely speaks Armenian, but he never learned anything Armenian.
Because he's what, like 4th, 5th generation by now?
Something like that. Yeah, it has to be. I mean, after like 100 years?
Yeah.
You know?
As far as different regions, what kind of dialects changed? Well, I don't know if I'm wording this the right way. Like, as far as the assimilation started taking place, let's, for example, talk about Turkey, right? Before the genocide, you had different regions, right? And every region had its own dialect. Have you looked into what type of assimilation was taking place, region compared to another region?
I haven't taken a look at it, but I have read some portions of what had happened. So, for specifically the communities in southern Turkey, like Kilis, Antep, most of them were assimilated. Like the example of my great-grandfather, who was from Kilis, he didn't speak a word Armenian. It's only after his daughter, my grandmother, after going to Armenian school, they learned Armenian, and that's how it has come down the generations. For the Armenians of Istanbul, Bolis, there were a lot of schools there, so relatively they weren't that much assimilated. And the ones living in the Western Armenia, Eastern Turkey today, that's where the majority of the community was. In the Kilis, Antep, still the majority were non-Armenians. The community was not very big as compared to Van, for example. In those areas, they weren't assimilated. They spoke Armenian because the entire village was like full of Armenians. I have one ancestor from Gamurch. It's close to Lake Van. And my grandmother says that they didn't even speak Turkish. They were just Armenian speakers because the whole region was, they were Armenians.
Still Armenians. Wow.
It's interesting.
Which is quite
What do you
uncommon
Go ahead.
for Ottoman Armenians, because most of them spoke Turkish, but in this region, apparently they didn't, because they didn't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, the further east. I mean, we've heard stories like this.
Yeah.
The further east, I mean, Turkey-wise, the further east,
it was
closer to Armenia. It wasn't
current Armenia.
I mean, well, it wasn't as what's the word I'm looking for? As Gestapo, call it that. As
well, if 95% is Armenian, they're going to speak Armenian. There's no need for Turkish, right? You know, from the research you did and from putting this book together, where do you see that? Like, what's the core problem of this assimilation? Where is it? How does it?
Where is it getting lost?
Yeah, and what is the solution, or what can be done to preserve the purity of both Eastern and Western dialect languages? As you know, this newer generation that is growing up, especially here, or even other places, France, I mean,
anywhere,
Norway, anyway.
Well, I mean, and one follow-up question to yours is the fact that how do you pause this? Like, what causes people to go back?
That's what I'm. It's like, where is the core issue? Where does it start from? How do we fight against it, and how do we pause it? I guess, you know, three steps,
or go back to
not even pause it, stop
speaking.
it. Yeah,
you know.
So the core issue can be of multiple reasons. One reason we can say that it's due to some people not being happy about or proud of their identity. Because if you are proud of being an Armenian, obviously you're gonna want to learn your language, to find the Armenian word for this English word you don't know, for example, things like that. So that's one issue. The other source we can say is when you compare with other cultures, obviously learning about our countries is very good, but again, Western culture it's seen as this cool culture of what I'm saying basically is that people should keep both Western and Armenian culture, but no importance is being given to the Armenian culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes to not being proud of your own identity. If you love the Armenian people, the language, the history, you're gonna do research about it. You're gonna learn it. Another issue can be that in some communities, some Armenians are so isolated that they have no chance of like getting any sort
somebody spark it, you know.
Yeah. Specifically, this was the case in the past, but now that there's the internet, if they want to learn, they can, and that's where my answer comes to the solutions. There are so many. For example, there's nairi.com on the internet. It shows you the Armenian words. Just type any English word, shows you the Armenian word. I don't use Google Translate because it's using for example, you type an English word and it just transliterates it instead of translating.
Yeah.
So you didn't see anything. That's why.
Yeah, Google Translate doesn't help very much.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten better. It's gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
But still, it uses foreign words. So nairi.com, that's one way if anyone is interested in learning the words, vocabulary.
It's 90.
90.com.
Yes.
How well is it with a Y or an I, or like how is it spelled?
So NAYIRI.com.
Okay.
Naidi.com. Yeah.
Okay.
There are on that website. There are tons of dictionaries as well. Like there's Turkish Armenian dictionary, French Armenian dictionary, any dictionary you can think of, it's there. I was using one of the dictionaries then when I started learning Turkish a year ago. It was very helpful. So from any community you're from, you can use these dictionaries. That's one source. Another way you can learn Armenian is just by watching videos in which Armenian is being spoken. So that would be YouTube videos, can be movies. You can also read novels if you want. There are tons of great Armenian novels you can read. And you can just buy them online. No matter, even if in a city where there is no Armenian library, that's not a big issue anymore. You can just buy from Amazon.
Of course.
And read it. So what I'm saying is that if you want to fight assimilation, there has to be that effort put by you. It's not automatic.
Each individual.
You have to put an effort.
Of course.
That excitement to learn it. So that's the first thing people should do if they want to learn the language.
But again, he brought up an amazing point, is if people are isolated, it's difficult for them to kind of have that spark to, you know, get to know. Let's say they may have found out in their family. Well, listen, let's assume they just recently found out that they have Armenian in their family, or they might have an Armenian past, or whatever the case is. That's the sparking point. Yes.
Yeah.
But what
Emily, who's one of our followers.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
great example.
Yeah. We have a bunch of listeners that, you know, this whole thing sparked them to learn more, to want to know more, to explore and to understand. And there's a multifaceted thing. People have to be interested. It all depends on the person. Yeah. Right.
But that's the thing. If you have to be willing to do this. So even if you're isolated, if there's that hunger to know your roots, your culture, your heritage, and to connect or reconnect with your identity. There you go, Emily. We love you, Emily. You know, you have to take those steps, and like he said, the fact that we have the internet, you know, it's so much easier,
multifaceted. And, there's too many things.
Yeah, but I think also the challenge from there is, so if you are isolated, and let's say you do start studying and learning the alphabet and then putting words together in the sentences, well, you have to speak with someone.
Of course.
So then if there's nobody around you, because listen, I learned English by watching TV. I mean, I was 9 years old, you know, but within a year as a child, just watching cartoons, you know. Yeah. So you have to be able to speak to, but then I went to school, I was interacting with other children, right? So there has to be that interaction. But I will also say that those of you who are interested in learning Armenian, there are so many tutors in Armenia that for like
phenomenal
$15 to $20 for like an hour and a half or something like that, they will teach you Armenian from the beginning, you know, the alphabet, and they're very patient. They will, you know, just walk you through everything. So do your research. We actually have a tutor who, besides our kids learning Armenian in Armenian school, they actually have tutors that from Armenia connect via Zoom, and they because we want them to constantly, you know, get fed from all points. So, but that's one of the great points. Is there another way that we can fight this situation?
Yes. Before I answer that, for tutors, if someone cannot find a tutor, they can use. There's this app, italki. It's basically that's where you look for tutors.
Okay.
There's the price, their availability. It's mostly Eastern Armenian, I believe.
Yeah.
Website, but whichever one you want to learn, I mean, they're not that different.
They're not. Honestly, they're not. I think some of them is mostly pronunciation and maybe a few words here and there. But if you think about it, and you know, I have a lot of friends and family who speak Western Armenian. You know, if you really pay attention to it, it's really more of an accent than anything else.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's some different words that are used,
but those words are not even Armenian words.
Yes, they're not. But again, it's just like what we've been discussing.
Yeah,
right. It's just decade after decade of certain things kind of evolving that way. Okay, so shifting gears here.
Yeah.
We've been talking about language.
Well, hold on. He didn't answer my question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Hold on.
Okay. I was getting a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So what would be another way?
Another way, I'm going to focus more on the situation in Armenia, and I'm going to give an example of something like this that has happened. There has to be a systematic, like the government should encourage people or itself stop using these words. The example I'm going to give is the one that is of Turkey, actually. The founder of the Republic of Turkey, Atatürk, he found an association called Türk Dil Kurumu, the Turkish Language Association. And what this association was all about, it's basically focusing on de-assimilating the language. They greatly purified the language from Arabic and Persian words. And that's why Turks today, they can't, if they read something like 80 years ago, sometimes they can't understand it because there was a drastic purification process. So the problem in Armenia has to start from the government.
Interesting.
The government should either create an association or something that has to systematically stop this. For example, there are a lot of words, even like on government websites, you look at it, they're using a lot of foreign words. Like I've sometimes even seen minister instead of nakharar. Like nakharar.
It's funny how they take the English word and put an Armenian flair into it.
Yeah.
Like it's like mini star. Like
twist to Russian.
Twist to it. Like
twist the Russian to it. Yes.
Not even Russian.
It's like you mentioned, informatia.
Yeah.
Like that's. I mean, you hear this in Eastern European countries and in Cyrillic. You know what I mean? It's the same pronunciation, but it's
with an Armenian accent.
With an Armenian accent.
That's what I'm saying.
Russian. It's a Latin word.
Yeah.
It's coming from Russian. In Russian, Latin words, they do like that. So the T-I-O-Ns become Tia.
Yeah.
And the C, if it's followed by I, E, and Y, becomes Tse. So center, for example, instead of getron. Even
Getron,
actually, it's the same word. It's a Greek word. And I'm not saying we shouldn't use it, but if you have the Armenian way of transliterating it, like kentron, white center, that's the question.
Yeah, it's just how it's your brain being trained in a specific way.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild when you think about it.
So with the Turkish example I've given, there has to take place something like that because it's pretty bad. Like obviously people can still themselves learn the Armenian synonyms, but for that issue to be resolved, the government has to do something.
Artashes, let me ask you a question. So this thing you're mentioning that Atatürk did, not that I'm trying to talk about him and his history, but this is an interesting point, right? If he attempted in invoking a purification of the language, when did he do this? Do you have any information? I've never even heard of this, so this is fascinating to me. When did he put this forward, and then how long did it take for this to kind of come to fruition?
Yes, so it happened in the early 1900s when the Republic was founded. First, they went from the Perso-Arabic script into the Latin one. It puts the language better. Then they founded these associations that basically they were creating dictionaries, getting rid of Arabic words. Actually, even into the 60s, I believe, even the prayer, they did it in Turkish, which is against the religion of Islam. Now they changed it to Arabic. So, and some people were happy.
Wow.
Like, that's when they did it, and we should take an example of it. It's one of the greatest examples in the history. I'm not sure.
So interesting.
I didn't even know about that. That's so crazy.
Yeah. I want to thank Sorry, I wanted to thank Orthodox Armenian for the super chat, $10 donation. We appreciate it. Thank you. Anybody who wants to donate, feel free. But I wanted to mention something that Emily said to everybody who might be interested in about learning Armenian. She said and Meg, who's one of our other listeners, she introduced her to, I don't know if this is an app, Emily, or maybe it's a website. It's called DASA 2, like DASA and then the number 2, which, again, they do Zoom lessons, and her daughter are using it to learn Armenian, which I'm very proud of you, Emily. I really don't give up on it. And, hopefully when we meet one day,
we'll have a chat in Armenian.
Yeah, chat in Armenian. So, do you want to shift gears?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been talking about language this whole time, right? Now, I'm sure throughout this entire time, over the last 100, 150 years, maybe even longer than this, we've had a lot of arvestagets, musicians, writers, anyone in the arts who may have assimilated. Can you tell us, specifically Turkey, obviously, back then, can you tell us how influenced Armenian music, let's stick to music for now, how influenced Armenian music was, and talk about the assimilation of Turkey, or the Armenians in Turkey, and the impact that it had on the music.
Yeah, like melodies and things like that.
Anything music related.
Yeah.
Let's stick to music first.
Yes, so in the book, I don't cover that far back. I talk about more the modern assimilation. So I would comment on the modern one. There are so many Armenian songs that the melody, the singers, songwriters have taken it from a Turkish song, written an Armenian lyrics to it, and presented as this great Armenian work. I'm going to give 2 examples from the book. So there's the Sev Acher by Aram Asadarian, which was taken from Haydi Söyle by Ibrahim Tatlıses. I put, if they get the book, the links in it, they can see it on YouTube, like compare the melody. And the second one I'm going to give, again, by the same songwriter, Vorne Merkez. Again, this one taken from a Persian song called Nilufar. And the other one, the third one I'm going to go through, is the famous Karun Karun Karune, or Eastern Armenian Garun Garun Garune, which is actually taken from an Azerbaijani song called Sana Gurban, the melody.
Well, didn't Andy make that a famous song? Garun Garun. Andy kind of.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's the one who. I mean, it's been sung before, but it wasn't as popular, I think, till Andy kind of did his version and put it on the map. But Aram Asatyan is, I remember, and God rest his soul, but he's notorious for taking Turkish melodies and writing Armenian lyrics over it, or even sometimes taking the words and translating them.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I'm not discrediting anyone, but like, we should create our own unique songs.
Yeah,
of course.
We shouldn't be taking these melodies, because as of now, most Armenians have been used to these melodies, and the more of them that look like them, the more they like it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
It's funny you say that. Stepan Partamyan talks about this a lot. Like, how, it's not our music. But then you have this other side who pushes back and says, well, even if you go in history, that region has always been in Armenia, going back millennia, even with past kings. That region has always been a multicultural. So they shared melodies and music and this and that, but
for thousands of years.
Now, to the other side of that is, we do have Armenian melodies and music.
Yes.
And I feel like today's artists are too lazy to create new ones.
Well, I challenge you saying laziness only because I'm going to make this about money. Where's the money, right? If let's say an Armenian individual, and I'm just going to throw out a hypothetical, an Armenian individual, music writer, or whatever, comes to the United States,
okay,
isn't going to write Armenian music to make money in the US.
Well, no, hold on.
I'm giving you an example.
They're servicing the Armenian community.
True.
They're the ones at the weddings. They're the ones at the concerts and things like that, right? So, okay, another example. Garik and Sona from Armenia.
Okay.
What do? They take traditional Armenian songs and they bring them to the modern day with different flair and
that's their style.
That's their style.
That's their style.
And they also write new songs with a mixture of rock and Armenian, different Armenian instruments. The instruments are very important as well. It's what type of sound you're creating.
That's very good. We should be doing more of that.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. I mean, I don't know what it is. And again, not to knock on the artists that are here or even there, but stop reaching to other cultures, especially the cultures that have, that have visions of annihilating us and borrowing stuff from them.
Should I say it? The example?
Go ahead.
Did you know, Artashes, you probably know this, Edgar Manas, he actually composed the Turkish national anthem. He's Armenian, born in Turkey.
And also, I seen the comments.
This is a fact. Look it up.
They say the person who changed the alphabet into Latin one in Turkey was an Armenian. That's also true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Name is Edgar Manas. Probably Manasyan.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Changed.
Can you tell us from your research what particular styles or genres of Armenian music would you say have been heavily influenced by Turkish or Azeri?
Yeah, mostly I would say, I'm not sure about the genre used, but as you said, the ones used in weddings, mostly, and the famous celebrities we have, the songs they produce, that's kind of sung like pop music or.
So it's mostly pop music. That's okay.
That's mostly that's getting. They're doing basic plagiarism.
Yeah.
And not always they take it from a Turkish song. Sometimes they create the song themselves, the melody themselves, but it's with a Turkish melody.
Yeah. We have the saying "mugam,"
Well, I mean, a lot of the drum beats, and you know more about this. You're a music.
No, I know. I'm very fascinated with this because
that stuff in that region, is very, very similar.
But the thing is, when having a musical background and being in the music industry before, it's when you hear those Armenian drums or the dahol, to put Turkish melody over that is so disrespectful. My God, I mean, it's just, I don't know. You have to be so disconnected with your identity.
Disconnect is a good word.
To be able to sleep at night knowing that you did that. Because the thing about music is that when you create something, you create a song or a melody or something that you're going to put out there and call it your own, and the masses are going to listen to it. Now what's happening is that you have the ripple effect that it could become an international hit, maybe not in the US, but in Europe. And we know certain artists who have done that.
Yeah.
But now everybody thinks that's Armenian. Right?
Yeah, during the Eurovision competitions. Yeah.
Eurovision.
Yes. I forgot the names, but there was a few examples over the last 10 years. I know that.
But even pop artists who might put a hit out there, and all of a sudden everybody thinks that that's Armenian, and then those people, especially in the Middle Eastern countries, relate to it because it has that Middle Eastern and Turkish melody in it with Armenian words.
Yes,
this is a big problem.
Moving into the Middle Eastern one, this is when it comes to not melody, but actually people getting excited into Middle Eastern songs. So if you go to any Middle Eastern wedding, for sure, 100% of the time, you're going to see in Arabic, most of the songs played are Arabic ones. Obviously, people are free. They want to listen to any music, that's fine. Most of the music I listen to is not Armenian. But if you're having such a big day, at least make half the songs Armenian.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't like is when people come from the Middle East to Western countries, linguistically they get assimilated, but melodically they still stick to that Arabic sound. So it's like, okay, so you know how to not get assimilated, but you're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So you are preserving the non-Armenian songs and you're playing them on your wedding and stuff. Why not do the same for your language?
Yeah.
Right.
I have a big problem with that, and I might get, people not like what I'm going to say, but here's the thing.
Let him have it, buddy.
No.
Let him have it.
And obviously, especially, let's talk about here. What are the biggest Armenian communities? You have the Armenians from Armenia, you have Persian Armenians, and then you have the Lebanese or Syrian Armenians, right? So you can group the Lebanese and the Syrians together because of the dialect. And you have the Persian Armenians and Hayastansis. Okay. Now, I've been to all types of weddings. You go to a Hayastansi wedding, you have your Armenian music, and typically when the bride and the groom walk in, you have your dahol, zurna, and this and that, which is great, right? About 2 hours into the wedding, all of a sudden the Russian goes on.
Of course.
And not just Russian, it's Armenian melody, or we shouldn't even call it Armenian, it's still Turkish with the beats being Armenian. And they sing Russian over it. It drives me crazy.
Who's the damn DJ?
Not the DJ, even the singers. Who are you catering to? We're all Armenian. You're playing an Armenian beat or whatever you want to call it, right? So at least let's call it somewhat Armenian. But you're singing in Russian. Who is this for? I'm just trying to understand. And then you go to a Persian Armenian a wedding. What happens? They'll start with the Armenian. And then halfway through it, all of a sudden, Persian music comes on. I get it. Hey, you lived there and this and that. But all of a sudden, the wedding completely changes to something else. And the same thing happens in Lebanese or Syrian Armenian weddings, where the Arabic music kicks in and everybody goes nuts and start shaking their hips and this and that. Why are we so drawn to that? Why are we so, like we got to do that? Are we giving praise to these countries? And the reason you're in that country, even the Persians, we have history with the Persians going all the way back. When the Shah took all those Armenians, the Arabs, all the caliphates, go learn your history.
Of course.
You ended up there after the genocide, before the genocide, because of tragedies, and you're giving praise to these countries just because you were there. I don't know. I just and the Armenians from Hayastan, the Russian singing over Armenian music. Stop it.
I was about to say the same thing, and I'm not getting critical because Vic just went on a rant, but it's the same thing with the Persian Armenian community. They'll sing a lot of Farsi music, and in Armenia, we'll get a lot of Russian speak over Armenian and Russian music over Armenian, right? And this is a common thing.
Yeah,
very common thing.
Sorry, guys.
And coming into one of the questions you asked about integration, that's one thing I explained in the book, that like the community in LA, for example, you see, again, most of them are divided among where they came from. So Persian Armenians, Syrian Armenians, Armenians from Armenia. I would advocate that just call yourself American Armenian and that's it.
Yeah.
The reason they listen to Persian songs at their weddings is they're showing their unique culture as opposed to you, for example, who are not from Iran. But people should abandon that. Just be an Armenian, an American Armenian.
Yeah.
Like you've been living in United States, some of them more than 50 years. Why are you
Yeah.
still sticking to that traditions? It's not yours. It's not your tradition.
No,
Yeah.
no, I agree. I agree.
That was a nice rant, buddy.
Thanks.
That was
I want to
interesting.
get hate mail from.
No, but it's true. I mean, listen, at some point, everybody's complained about it. We all have.
Yeah.
We've thought about it. Maybe we haven't been vocal about it, but we've complained about it. I'm sure there's been a tabletop conversation amongst everybody about certain topics like this. 100% there have been. Yeah.
It's frustrating to think about this, and you know, like I said, I'm guilty of it as well.
Hey, maybe we're a little speck in the sand of helping change these things.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, it almost sounds hypocritical that we're doing this podcast in English, but at the same time, we're trying.
There's a reason.
There's a reason. We're trying to reach out an audience of people to, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Armenians who speak English.
We've announced, not just Armenians. We said this from the beginning. We can do this in Armenian.
We can.
But what's going to happen is now we're back to the same thing of keeping it within our circle.
Yes.
The point of this podcast is for Armenians and non-Armenians to listen to it. And like you said, there's a lot of Armenians who might be, a quarter Armenian, half Armenian that just have been,
it sparked something in them.
like you said, like have been growing up in a region where there's no Armenians, or their parents never taught them about their heritage or anything of that sort. Now they're all of a sudden, we have great examples of this. You know, we've had people reach out to us from all over the world saying, hey, thank you so much. Because of the fact that you're doing this in English, I can understand. And this has sparked the interest to do more research and learn more about my heritage, my identity. And it could be 10% Armenian, but something, the actor, what's his name?
Joe Manganiello.
Yeah. Look at him.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, didn't we also have a listener from, or we do if you're listening, hi, hello, from Ottawa? His wife was Armenian, or was he Armenian? And
was it Ottawa or Maine?
No, it was in Ottawa. I remember it was specifically in Ottawa. Anyway, I think his wife was Armenian, so he was interested in learning more about the Armenian culture and Armenian history.
Yeah.
He was an even Armenian, I believe. Anyway, a lot of interesting stories have come out of this.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
All right. Do you have a question, or should we take a break?
No, we can take a break.
Okay. So we are going to take a quick, like a 2-minute break, guys, and then we'll be right back. So enjoy these promos. All right, everyone, we are back. We're having an interesting conversation with Artashes Keshishyan, who is the author of the book White Genocide. And we're just discussing pretty much about assimilation in different categories. We covered linguistics. Well, we just talked about musical assimilation. And by the way, those of you who are live with us in the chat room, again, feel free to ask any questions to us or to Artashes, and we'll answer them. And also, please hit that like button on YouTube and Facebook. It helps with the algorithms for more people to see it. And subscribe and support the show. Artashes, I want to move on to the next topic as far as assimilation goes, nominal assimilation. Mm-hmm. I am guilty of it, and it drives me insane. As when we moved here, obviously, those of you who may not know by now, my Armenian name is Vahe. Everybody who knows me, who is dear and close to me, calls me Vahe. Only people in my career, my work, my business call me Vic. And as a kid, when I was, I came here, I went to elementary, and then from elementary, there was a program, magnet program, that, we had to take the bus all the way to East LA for a school that was science and, technology, computer science, and this and that. And my brother ended up going there too. He's older than me. And we were literally, I think in my class, there was 4 boys and I want to say 3 or another 4 girls, Armenians, and all Hispanic. So I had a very difficult time because as a kid, going 7th grade, they couldn't pronounce my name. I don't know why it was so difficult to say Vahe, especially in the Spanish language. They cannot pronounce V. They pronounce it as a B, like a B as in boy. So it would drive me insane because they would say Bahe. Even the teachers wouldn't know how to read it. They would say Vahi and all these things. So imagine a 7th grader, you're having this stress that nobody can pronounce your name. And then obviously there's the bullying side of things where they start taking name and turning it into something that's could be offensive or whatever. They're kids, I get it. So as soon as my parents, because I was underage, my parents became citizens, I automatically put my middle name as Vic. And I started telling everybody to call me Vic. That was me running away from I don't want to say maybe trauma, I don't know, whatever it was from that experience. But then as growing up, I ended up, being involved in the music industry, so forth. So it was much easier when I was introduced, I would say Vic. I mean, it's my middle name now. It's in my passport, you know. So I would just say Vic, and that just carried on. So that's one thing I have to deal with. The other thing is the fact that my children, when they were born, even though their middle names are Armenian, we put their first name, English, American name, whatever you want to call it, with the excuse that it'll be easier for them because they're going to be growing up here. Mm-hmm. And now since we've doing this podcast and everything, I always say, force them to learn how to pronounce it. Mm-hmm. Why did we do that? It's a little regret. And I think a lot of Armenians are doing that.
I mean, I have my own story. Yeah. My first name, as you know, is not actually even Armenian. Mike is just a name I made up because the bullying thing when we were kids, 4th, 5th grade, something like this. My real birth name is actually Michel. My parents named both my brother and I French names. Mm-hmm. Long story short, when my parents first came here back in the mid-70s, they weren't planning on settling here. Mm-hmm. They were planning on moving to France because of my dad's business. because my dad's a fashion designer, so he was planning on moving to Paris. So they figured names, French names.
Yeah.
Right. So, but my middle name is after my grandpa's name, Manouk. My full name is Michel Manouk Balyan.
Yeah.
It's not actually even Mike. Mike, I just made up because, kids.
Yeah.
Kids make fun of you, say stupid things about your name.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is, and you're trying to escape it. That's a part of this whole nominal assimilation, right? Yeah. And I'm sure many of you can attest to this. If you want, Artashes, why don't you elaborate a little bit more on this as well? Because I'm sure this is just everyone, a lot of people have cases like this.
Yeah, so when we say nominal assimilation, if anyone didn't know what it is, it's basically the use of foreign names, including first names and last names.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So focusing on first names, most Armenians don't have Armenian names. Either they're Hebrew or Greek, or nowadays it's Western names, so that's English, Irish names, things like that. As you said, the excuse used is, well, the non-Armenians will be able to pronounce it. Like for my name, for example, it's most of them cannot pronounce it, but once I explain it to them, they can. So the first thing we have to do is to not think about what others will do to us. Like, does that even matter, to be honest? Like, there are so many other people from other cultures that they just keep their name, even though it's hard to pronounce. But we can explain, like, we can say this is how you pronounce it, and that's it. And if they cannot pronounce it, like in the Spanish example, well, that's fine. Like, that's not our issue. There are some sounds in Armenian that don't exist in other languages. That's fine. Like, a Spanish speaker will also say, instead of saying Vic, they're gonna again pronounce it as a B.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's pronounced when V is in the beginning of the word. So that's for first names. We just have to focus on ourselves. And I'm not saying we have to pick the hardest Armenian name and name okay with that. Like my name, for example, it's a long name.
Artavazd.
Yeah, Artavazd is another one. Again, it's about being proud of your identity. If you wanna, now, if you've named your kids with foreign names, don't feel like you've done.
No, there's nothing to be ashamed.
No. It's not. It's not something that.
Like spread the message so that others.
Yeah,
of course.
Well, hey, I put their middle name as Armenian, but still, it's something that I don't know if it's a regret or what. I just wish I wouldn't have, folded to that idea that, we live in America and it's going to be easier for them, this and that. Now I understand that that's an excuse that we tell ourselves as Armenians, because we somehow wanted to fit in and we had difficulties.
Yeah.
So you're trying to protect your children from experiencing that and make it easier on them in their journey of life, with the idea that, hey, they're going to grow up here. They're going to be, Americanized somewhat, or most of it, right? But then at the same time, we're fighting to keep our identity with them.
And that's something that, like, both you and I share in similar stories, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners also share, is at some point in your life, you reach a point where you return to your culture. Yeah. You return to the appreciation of your culture and your heritage. Whereas at some point, maybe, I don't know, let's call it your late teens to early 20s, you become a little rebellious, right? Even as a young parent, you might have thought rebellious in a way. Not you per se, but like other parents might have been, I'm moving to this other country. I'm moving to this other place. I'm going to name my kids this. 15, 20 years down the line, you say to yourself, why did I do this?
I mean, you see...
Maybe.
You see Armenians who have migrated here from Armenia in the last 5 years, and their kids' names are Derek and Chad and things like that, and you're like, are you kidding me? Like, where, what? And part of it is they, we don't know their story, we don't know what they've dealt with, but you can tell by them doing that they're trying to disconnect from the identity and run away from. Again, like I said, everybody has their own life story, and you don't know what kind of trials and tribulations they've gone through.
Sure. And geopolitics, and again, we don't want to talk about politics or geopolitics, but geopolitics plays a major role in this too. And I'm going to give an example. I have a lot of Syrian friends, Syrian non-Armenian friends, right? They changed their names to come to this country. I mean, look, let's be honest. We know what's been going on with the world and who and what, let's say post 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Over the last 22 years, people who have come here from Middle Eastern countries, they changed their kids' names to something more Americanized, maybe to getting visas easier, to getting into the United States easier, or let's say Canada, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
There's so many different reasons, and I'm not giving this as an excuse. It's just you have to consider the broad scale of reasoning behind name changes.
Yeah.
And again, not an excuse. It's just something that ends up happening.
But this is the problem with assimilation.
Yes.
Now, as far as the significant differences, the way the first names and the surnames are assimilated in the Armenian diaspora, compared, what would you say? How would you compare it to other diaspora? Obviously, when we say diaspora, it's not just here. We have diaspora in France and Belgium and Spain. So many. Do you see difference in the way the assimilation is happening in these different communities?
Yeah, mostly I would say it's pretty universal. It's not that different. There are even people in the Middle East who name their kids with Western names to look cool. So it's universal. It's not even in Armenia sometimes. I don't see any difference. But maybe, as you said, in the Western, there's that bullying that goes on. Maybe because of that, it's a bit more frequent. But it happens in other regions as well. And also, when we say nominal assimilation, we don't forget the Hebrew and Greek names, like Hagop. That's not an Armenian name. That's a Hebrew name. Names like Sarkis.
I didn't know that. Hagop
is Sergius from Latin. It's not Armenian.
Sarkis is not Armenian.
No. Stepan is Greek.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like these names. Krikor is Greek again, Grigor. These are not Armenian names, but
Grigor, I mean, became popular because of Grigor Lusavoric. That's one of the reasons.
Gregorius. Gregorius.
Yeah,
there are a lot of foreign names, like any others I can give.
Well, you can't say Vartan.
David is another one. It's
Hebrew. My son's name, I know. David is a Hebrew name.
Adam.
What about Edgar?
So glad my parents were ahead of the game, huh? Oh, shed some light on that, Tom.
I think it's French, if I'm not mistaken.
We love you, Ed.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Well, I think even Vahe has some kind of a French root to it. But Vahe goes back. I mean, we've mentioned the name Vahe in during the Vartanants era and in the Vahanants era. So I don't know if
Armenian. Sort of.
Yeah, I think it's Armenian. Again, I don't know, but I know that Vahe goes way back, and we've talked about certain people during those eras that we've covered. So,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if you can ask the question.
With naming, let's say, first name and last name, something different to assimilate, right? There also comes a cultural impact where maybe by psychological association, individuals might not relate to their heritage or their culture. Yes? This has to be a common theme.
Exactly what do you mean by that?
Let's say I don't know. Let's say you're coming from or let's say you're coming from Armenia and you're naming your kid Bob
or Derek
and you know the child doesn't relate to their heritage because of the name in any way, shape, or form. You understand what I'm saying? So let's say they grow into their mid-teen years or early 20s or whatever the case is, and they never think, hey, where is my name originated from? My name is Bob or Derek or whatever the case is, or Jill. I'm just going with like the most 50s or 60s American names in the world. But well, you understand what I'm saying? This is what I'm trying to get to is cultural identity.
Yeah.
In terms of, or relating to your cultural identity or your heritage because of said assimilation through name changes.
Yes, it does. It does play a role in that. But if you're an individual who has a Western name, don't feel bad about yourself and don't say that, oh, it's not good that I don't have an Armenian. But at least like encourage others to name Armenian names of the future generations they have.
Yeah.
But as you said, there's a cultural impact on it because when you have an Armenian name, you can see, okay, what does it mean? Where does it come from? It would be interesting in that case. Whereas to foreign names, when you dig it, you will go to foreign cultures, which you might not find the connection there.
Well, I mean, I think we live in an age where a lot of people tend to, because of the internet age, as you mentioned earlier, Artashes, is people are trying to find out more about where their names are from, where their family names are from, fathers' names come from, the roots of said things. And I mean, the internet's right there. It's at our fingertips. We can do whatever we want and find out any sort of information about it, right? Where's the origin of my name? Where's the origin of my last name? What does this mean? Where is this come from? Is it ancient Hebrew? Is it ancient Greek? Whatever. And you go down these paths of exploration because it's so easy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's done is done as far as now, you know, the way we were named or we named our kids. And so the point of it is that we need to figure out how to fight this and for the next generation of parents that will be having children in the diaspora, in Armenia, everywhere. To preserve Armenian names, do your research. And sometimes even when you look for Armenian names, some people go on the internet and they search for like Armenian girl names, right?
Yeah.
You have the typical ones, but then there are a lot of them that have already been assimilated and you think it's Armenian, but it's not.
It's not.
So behind that name, do additional research to find out, is this truly an Armenian name? Right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's one way to fight this side of the nominal assimilation, I think.
Oh, of course.
Yes. So there's this website, Wiktionary. It's basically etymological dictionary of any language. So you can put the name there, and sometimes it shows the origin of what it means and which language it has come from.
Wiktionary.com.
Yeah. They can check.
Okay, just posted it for anyone that wants to look.
We'll go ahead and
abiding. Yeah, I just had to mention Bob. It's just a funny static name.
Well, you should Mary Jo.
Mary Jo. Betty Lou. Okay, I'll stop there.
I mean, can we go further back?
I'll stop there.
To the 50s? And
I mean, it's just, you know, it's
some country names there.
Middle America names.
Let's kind of shift gears towards our traditional assimilation. That's another thing that is taking place.
I would say let's cover the last names also. And we
okay, all right, fine. I thought we were done with that.
I have a thing to say. By the way, when he's done, you had a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick.
Okay, go ahead. All right, I'm sitting back on this one. Go ahead.
No. Let him.
No, I know.
Let him say.
Let's talk about the surnames.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last names are also affected. like if we compare the last names of three of us here, so my last name Keshishyan, it's an Assyrian word that has gone to Persian, then to Turkish, and then have taken. It means monk or priest. I'm told that one of my ancestors was a priest, so that's one reason. Balyan means honey in Turkish. Bal is honey. And Aslan is lion.
Lion.
Yeah, I know.
Turkish
I have a
again.
tattoo of a lion because of that. But you know, well, the funny thing is, first of all, that's sweet of you that you're funny.
I saw what you did there.
From what I'm told,
Hey,
my
man,
last
I
name
come
used
from a
to
long
be
line of architects.
sure. Who made honey?
No,
What is it? Honey?
they build amazing things 1,000 years ago.
So I was told that there was an R, so it used to be Arslanyan.
Yeah, that's the old way. Like since Turkish changed during that Atatürk era, so that's one of the
Interesting.
So you're still saying that Arslan was the old way of saying lion?
Yeah.
Oh,
Interesting. Because I was trying to find the root of what Ars means in Armenian.
I know what it means in English.
Ars.
Or like, the Scots or the Irish.
You're too sweet, Balian. You're too sweet. Sweet like honey.
Yeah, it's a Turkish word. It's not Armenian. It means lion, Aslan.
Yeah.
And we can name. There's a long list in the book.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, give us some examples.
Yeah,
Maybe.
give us some examples.
We're focusing now on Ottoman Armenians.
Okay.
Sure.
So mostly Western Armenians. There are also Eastern Armenians with Turkish names as well. They're either related to occupation or a funny body part, like let's say one has big eyes, so it's big eyes yan in Turkish.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. I mean, but let me ask you a question. Did this happen because of the genocide? Because they had to go just make something up to...
No, I think it happened before. Before
the genocide. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so before the genocide, either by Armenians themselves, because as I said, some Armenian communities were monologue Turkish speakers. They didn't even...
Yes.
Before you continue, I want to mention something. Armenian last names were always ended with uni. Bagratuni.
Yes.
I can't think of any ones right now, but it was
Arshakuni.
Arshakuni,
Rushtuni.
Yeah, Rushtuni. Yeah. Good job. Yeah. But I think the YAN started taking place once Western Armenia was part of the Ottoman Empire, and that's how they identified Armenians, by putting YAN next to it, and then creating the first part of it, like you said, somebody who had big eyes or hairy chest or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it goes even back, like Varta Mamigonian. He lived before the Ottoman Empire, but he had a yan.
Yeah.
And some...
That's right. I didn't think of that.
That the yan is even that it's not Armenian, it's from Persian, but it is. It's the same root that the suffix yan used in Armenian, like for example, Amerikyan.
Yes,
it's the suffix, so it is an Armenian suffix. But yes, in the Ottoman Empire, it could be that they use that to differentiate between Armenians and non-Armenians.
Armenians, yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point. So
give us some examples.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so there are like, let me see. So there is Berberian. Berber is like barber. It's not the Turkish word in this case, but it's coming from Turkish. That's why it's Berber. There's Balyan, there's Bardakçıyan, that's glassmith, Bardakçıyan.
Interesting.
Let's see. There's even Böcekyan, which is insect. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, Böcek. Böcek. Yeah. I've heard this word. Yes. Yeah.
There are Burunsuzyan, noseless. Again, funny body parts.
Wow.
Burunsuzyan. There's Choplakyan, naked.
Choplak, yeah, I've heard this.
Chirkinyan,
That's an interesting history behind that.
ugly. There is Churukyan, that's rotten.
I mean, this is almost bullying.
Yeah, it is.
Artashes, how long, before you keep going, because this is really interesting, how long did it take you to compile a lot of these last names, or like to find this? Did you have to dig into some sort of database, or is this just family members or something? I'm curious.
So in this table, some of them I've added the ones I know, and the other one is this article written by, let's see, Nalbandian. He's a Armenian teacher in a journal called Sion, and he's basically doing the same thing, telling that just why do we have these foreign last names? That's where I got most.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, so,
we're getting requests. Abiding is asking me to look up Chinchinian. I thought it was Chinchinian. Wow.
I don't have that. No.
Well, we don't have that.
Well, add that to your list.
And check it.
Chin. Something in Turkish. Maybe look up Chin.
Yeah, check Wiktionary. Abiding. It's right. It's the comment right above. He was saying that might be a good resource.
Yeah. Jakob. Yaakov.
Oh yeah, there we go. Truthline saying Jakob is equivalent of Yaakov.
Yeah, which is Hebrew. Yeah.
It's a Hebrew name. Mm-hmm. And I believe it means someone who holds ankle, something like that, because in the Bible, that's who Jacob was. That's how it's declared. When they were twins, he and Esau, and when they were taking Jacob, he was holding the ankle or something of Esau. Then that's how they named him.
Named him Yaakov. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, there are a lot of last names in the book. There's Kaplanian, that's tiger. Hojayan, teacher.
Interesting.
Blue-eyed. Gözü küçükyan, small-eyed. Gözü büyükyan, big-eyed.
That's so...
Wait, Koze Buyukyan is big-eyed?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. That's so interesting. This is really, really
wow.
That
is.
Yes, yeah. I've actually I went to school with somebody who had last name this. Poor person got made fun of for a little bit, but I think they stopped after they got tired of it.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't Haraj Kozi Beok?
He's Kozi Beokyan.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. Sometimes the pronunciation is changed, so it's
and the lettering might be changed.
But they change G to K. Could be.
So interesting. Well, is there and you have this list in your book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody who's joining us live, again, thank you so much. Thank you for the comments, the questions. If we encourage you guys to go purchase the book, The White Genocide, explaining the origins of it and providing solutions. This is a book that Artashes has written. It is on Amazon. If you see it on your screen, there is the QR code. You guys can scan it and purchase it. First, you're going to learn a lot more than,
we're skimming through things and just having a discussion.
Yeah, but he in details talks about the assimilation and the problems, and he provides solutions to it as well. You will, go ahead and support this young man who has, taken great time and out of his, and I know you're going to university.
And he's already written a book.
Yeah, are you graduating this year or?
Yes.
You are okay, and you're going to support him. He's doing great work. So, again, scan that QR code, purchase the book, and support Artashes. So
let me, before we move on to traditional assimilation, which is an amazing topic to talk about. What I don't understand is You know, and I'm going to get into the social media aspect of things. Why so many Armenians cut off the IAN or the YAN from their last name. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Over the last like 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
I'm going to say this to all of you on camera. What are you afraid of? What are you ashamed of that you all did this? Like, I'm sorry. I'm going to be critical of it because I've been critical about it with conversations with my friends.
Yeah.
What is that retarded trend? And
We know a few people.
And I'm going to call it a retarded trend. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sue me. That's it. That's my bone to pick.
Comment on it. When it comes to Armenians in Turkey, it was actually forced upon them by the reforms Atatürk was doing. So Atatürk, as I said, purified the language and also changed the last names of all the population from Arabic to Turkish. That's why some of the Armenians from there don't have the yan at the end.
Oh no, Artashes, this is in the modern day.
About now.
No, this is in the modern day. Over like I want to say what, like the last 4 or 5 years. Look, we all have social media, and they all had their full last name spelled out, and then all of a sudden, the IAN got dropped. And they changed their names. It's like, oh, this is not who I am anymore. I don't know. I'm just gonna say let's come up with the last name. If let's say I dropped the IAN and I said I'm Mike Ball. That's it. Like that's it. Nobody knows me as anything else.
Mike Ball.
I know it's pathetic. Sounds pretty damn pathetic.
And here's the thing: when you do that, not only are you disrespecting yourself, you're disrespecting your parents, your grandparents, your great grandparents, your ancestors, your entire lineage is being disrespected. So whatever you're running from, as difficult as it may be,
don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
Face it, deal with it, and accept it. That is the most, dishonorable thing you can do to yourself and to your family. I've known people who have completely changed their last name to completely something else.
It's a whole different topic. I know a few people that have done the same thing legally too. Yeah, legally paid money, went to the courts, had their last names changed to Johnson, or I'm just making that up. Not really Johnson, but yeah, you get it.
Yeah. So can we go to the next topic?
Sure, let's go.
Any more rants?
No, that's it. Okay. You had yours, I got mine.
Okay,
that's it.
We're even. Okay, so let's talk about traditional assimilation. One thing we try to do here, as much as possible, is to keep our traditions, being so far away from the homeland. And how has the Armenian diaspora assimilated to foreign holidays and traditions? And can you bring some, let's say, notable examples of these type of assimilations? And again, I feel like it's part of, I don't know, trying to fit in.
Well, depending on where you go, and I'm sure you can probably attest to this. Huh?
Yes. So when we say traditional assimilation is when Armenians stop celebrating certain holidays, Armenian holidays, and instead adopting foreign ones. Now, adopting foreign ones in the culture you're living in, that's fine, but I think we should also keep our own traditions. That could be like national holidays, things like relating to Armenia, Independence Day, because specifically if you're living in an isolated community or there's no Armenia around you, you won't even know that yesterday was Independence Day, for example.
Yes.
That's one thing. So this is in regards to Western Armenians living in the Western world. We are slowly, unfortunately, forgetting our own holidays and traditions that we do. I'm going to more focus on Middle Eastern Armenians. So some of you may know there's this, before a wedding, they do this thing called ghana. Have you guys heard of it?
Ghana?
No. Please do tell.
It's a bizarre like tradition with where they dye their fingers. It's all like Turkish music. Some people do it in the Middle East.
Okay.
Similar to how they bring Arabic songs when they come to Western country, they keep this tradition. It's like, why are you keeping this? So that's one example, big example of traditional assimilation. Middle Eastern Armenians are not assimilated linguistically a lot, but when it comes to music and tradition, a little bit, they are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. It's like people should be proud of their Armenian holidays, whether religious or non-religious, national. We're forgetting these, like,
Can you bring some examples of Armenian holidays that are being kind of forgotten about and not celebrated? And when I say celebrate, I'm not talking about take the day off and
we're not going to work today.
Yeah, the banks are closed. Nothing like that. But if I can add to that, we can learn a lot from the Jewish culture. They have so many, traditions and holidays within their culture that they don't care. They could be living here. Hey, this is my holiday, and they stick to their guns and they celebrate it, right?
That some, not
nowadays,
just Armenians, but a lot of other cultures have assimilated to that.
Yeah. And the thing is, especially nowadays with everybody with this my truth thing that's going around, use it as an advantage to celebrate. If somebody says anything to you, well, this is our traditions. This is who I am. So, and we should preserve those traditions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm going to give just one example. For example, there's the Armenian holiday, or it's not a religious one, but comes from the church. It's Paregentan or Baregentan in Eastern Armenian, which is basically very similar to Halloween. But you see people, unfortunately, our kids, they celebrate Halloween, but they don't celebrate the Armenian version.
Yeah.
That's one example I can give of. Like, that's one example.
Even with anything that happened recently over, let's say, over the last 100 years, we technically have two different Armenian Independence Days.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of people don't even know what those Independence Days are.
Yeah.
Like, they only see posts on social media, which is great, which may be like, oh, what is this all about? And they dive into it and might open up to it.
Yeah.
But this is a real thing where, let's say, people do not know these dates by heart.
Yeah.
So that leads me into, I guess my next question would be, what are some of the concerns of any of these traditional Armenian cultural practices and identity that, let's say, assimilation may sway us away from?
Yeah. Do you mean like why it's happening?
Well, I mean, the why is obvious, but like, what are some of the further concerns? Let's say some of these dates, prominent dates, right? Understanding certain things. Like, for instance, let's go back to mentioning the Jews. If somebody says what Yom Kippur is, everyone knows when Yom Kippur is. Why? Because you live in a country where everybody talks about it.
Yeah.
So how do you combat this?
Yeah.
These are some of the concerns. Like, what do we do? What do we say? How do we act to kind of bring more light to this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about the concerns, it's again, you're moving away from your unique identity. You're becoming more like the others. Also, it has something to do with your national pride. So you see, like, okay, so my nation has this holiday, and I'm proud of it. That's the concern. again, when all the 4 types of assimilation we're talking about, they happen together. They don't just happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't
It's not
find
a step
one
pro.
person, he doesn't speak Armenian, but he's like 100% keeping all the holidays and stuff. It happens all of them together. That's the my comment about the concerns. About how to combat it. Well, just make it a tradition, like with your family. Just Google the dates when they are, read about them. Just do a tradition. Like, I don't know, maybe on Independence Day, just get together, sing the national anthem, whatever you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Well, first of all, I think the first step is to do research and find out what are the actual holidays and traditions, because there are many of them that we don't. I'm guilty of it. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know about, and
there are things.
And listen, we're not saying just because you live in the United States, Canada, or whatever. We're not saying don't celebrate the country you're in, and many of us are citizens. Many of us were born in that country. We're not saying don't do that, but at the same time, don't forget about your culture, your heritage, and those traditions that have survived thousands of years from the before Christianity, after Christianity. All these traditions, they're there for a reason.
Well, let's say, and I'm completely hypothetical, complete example just made up right now. Let's say you are an Armenian that's like on an island. You don't have any other Armenian friends in your city or whatever the case
situation.
Well, no, but seriously. And you had an Indian friend, from India and whatnot, and you saw their family celebrating some traditional thing that they're celebrating, right? Doesn't it make you ask the question, well, wait a minute, what about my culture? Like, do we not have certain things?
Yeah.
It's a cultural connection thing. Like, they have theirs.
Yeah.
We have ours.
They invite you, you invite them, teach them about it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just about, like, even if you are isolated.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is an excuse, but even if you're isolated, doesn't it make you think, like, wait a minute, this family is celebrating their cultural thing.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it with other Indian families, for instance. So wait a minute, I'm Armenian. Okay, hold on. Let me go Google or whatever.
Yeah.
Some tradition and look into my traditions and dates and whatnot. Right? It has to be a human thing. Right? Am I making sense here?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, but speaking of traditions, I want to do a quick plug. Hike for Our Heroes. Last year they did this. They're doing it again this year. And they're doing the Vartevar celebration at Verdugo Park.
And that's one of them.
Yeah. And that's one of the traditions. One of the best traditions. It's so much fun. We went last year. We took the kids. We had a blast. There were plenty of vendors, food and other things. And then they had these big cannons that were just watering kids. And then the fire department showed up. And they just started blasting everybody with water. It was so much fun. So it's happening again this year, guys. It's going to be Sunday, July 16th at Verdugo Park in Glendale. So if you're local here in Los Angeles, make sure you attend and follow them, Hike for Our Heroes on Instagram. And they do posts and things like that. Great organization. And they do a lot of, and if you are someone who's active, likes to go hiking and things, they do hikes around the Los Angeles area to raise awareness, and they're doing some great projects and things like that. So really want to mention this to everybody. I mean, we covered pretty much the 4 main topics that it has to do with assimilation. Can you kind of give us the overall, in your opinion, what we should do, or what you suggest for people to do from all the research experience? And you wrote this book for them to work on the assimilation as far as linguistics, musical. What can they do? I mean, if you're an artist, what should they do? If you're not, or you listen to it, what other sources there are to listen to actual Armenian music, the name situation, so forth. So if you can group them together and kind of give advice, what should be done for the diaspora and people in Armenia.
Yeah, for this issue to be resolved, all of us have to work together. It doesn't happen individually. So that includes all Armenian organizations who specialize in Armenian culture, the ones that form schools. In the schools, for example, in the Western world, students, most of them communicate with each other in English. Students have to be encouraged to speak Armenian and learn English as well. Some people get afraid that, if we do that, then they're not going to learn English. They will learn at the end. So all of us have to work together individually and as a nation, as a community, to be proud of our identity, no matter what happens to us as a nation, from wars and genocide. That's the first thing. That's the first step. Then use the internet, do conferences on Armenian history. We do, I'm not saying we don't, but basically all of us have to work together in learning Armenian, learning the Armenian synonyms of certain English words. The Armenian government has to also be involved in this, not only for Armenians in Armenia, but for the ones in diaspora as well. Social media has to play a huge role because people are influenced more by social media than by their families. So the more pure Armenian words they see on the screen, the better. So that's where I'm going to comment on how to do this. And we also talked about specifically how to combat each form of assimilation.
Yeah. Well, this was a great conversation. But before we let you go, we have one last question we ask to every guest. And this is our time machine question. And the question is, if we had a time machine, at what time period in history, Armenian history, would you want to go back to witness or even possibly be a part of?
Yeah. I would go the times
and why
and why. I would go the times of King Dikran the Great, because at that time Armenian culture was flourishing greatly. We were even forcing other people in learning our language
to assimilate to us.
Yeah, and with the Armenian kingdom that he expanded.
Yeah,
I think that's the best time to live as an Armenian. And
yes,
it was also the old Armenian language. Even I'm not sure at that point. I think it was even Proto-Armenian, not even Krapar.
Yeah. It was Proto.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you on that one because that was
good answer.
One of my answers as to when I would go. But I have many. I mean, it's not just that, but that's my number one too.
Good answer.
Artashes, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know it's late for you now up in Canada. We really appreciate it. This was a great conversation.
Very interesting topic.
This is a topic that, I personally have had around friends when we're hanging out and, discuss, because most of us are parents now and our concern is, what's going to happen to our kids when they're growing up here. And if we don't do something about it now, it's
an effort. It's an effort by the numbers.
Yeah,
it really is. It's not, one person. It's an effort by the numbers.
Yeah. Again, everyone, those of you who would like to support Artashes, please go to Amazon and purchase his book. We have that QR code on the screen. You can scan it. Again, it's called The White Genocide. Basically, what we talked about, but it covers it in detail about the assimilation of the diaspora in Armenia, and he explains the origins of it and providing great solutions. Artashes, anything else you want to mention before we let you go?
Yeah, I would just say be proud of your identity and go do more research about it and learn more.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Perfectly said.
Good job.
Perfectly said.
All right, Artashes. Well, you have a great night. Go get some rest, and we'll chat with you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Artashes.
Thank you. All right, take care.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's a great conversation to have. It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah.
Always is. It's not something that can upset people. It's just a conversation.
Yeah. Well, I get fired up about this because there are part of it has to do with things that I wish I had done different. Part of it is when I see other people deliberately doing things like you said, chopping off their last name.
I can't. I'm sorry. Like I know it's a social media thing, but I can't stand it. It's like, why'd you do it? For what? Did it make your life better? Did it? But I'm talking to you.
Let's see. All right. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, this is our last episode for season 3. We are going to be taking some time off, and the reason that we do this season version rather than just numbering it every week or something, because like we said before, it takes a lot of time to do these research and find guests who are intellectuals that have something to do with our culture, heritage, history, and things like that. Besides that, we have been blessed with this podcast putting us in the forefront of the diaspora, where we have been lucky enough to meet some amazing people who are on board with our ideas and our visions, and we are working on so many multiple projects at the same time to bring more educational,
kick it up a few notches,
educational content when it comes to Armenian culture, heritage, history. So we'll be taking some time off. We are working on for doing another meta talk. Like I said, our goal is sometime end of August, early September. We'll see. It depends on all the guests that we want to have on this panel. At the same time, we'll return for season 4.
Yes, we're not going away.
Yeah,
we promise.
We'll be back for season 4 in probably mid to end of August. Again, it all depends on our schedules.
Yes. But there's, as you could tell by the smile on my face, there's a lot of exciting things happening.
Yeah.
A lot of good things.
Yeah.
Artistically, theatrically.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yeah. There's, if you guys, again, go ahead and support us by purchasing our sculptures or t-shirts or mugs, doesn't matter. Use the promo code Artsakh and you'll get 10% off, and we will match that and donate it to support our heroes. You see that little QR code, you can scan that or just go to merhersoner.com. Follow us on Instagram for all the updates. And then Patreon. I want to mention this about Patreon. So we have about over almost 1,300 followers on YouTube. We have I think we're getting close to 30,000 on the podcast platforms, and we have 15 Patreons, which is a shame. We're asking everybody to support us. And the reason we want you guys to support us, and it starts at $5 a month, which is nothing. That's you guys just buying us a cup of coffee. It doesn't even cover a cup of coffee for both of us.
Sure.
But our goal is to, by the time we come back, we're hoping to have at least 100 patrons. And that donation, we're using that towards these other projects. Keep something in mind. Everything that we're doing, we're self-funding it, and There's so much we can do. We're not millionaires. So everything that you guys support us with financially, we're putting it back into it. So go to patreon.com/Mer Hersoner and support us. Like I said, $5 a month. I think most of you can afford that. So we want to get that number to at least 100. And then once we hit that 100 goal of Patreons, we're going to do a special Q&A live on Patreon for the members. And then we're going to do giveaways. We're just going to have a good old time.
Yeah.
Have fun, interact with one another.
Maybe we might even just have a barbecue with y'all.
Yeah, live barbecue.
I mean, why the heck
Why not? Why not? Yeah, we can do a lot.
But, I mean, listen, you guys are going to get really excited about some of the stuff we're trying to put together for everyone, for just our heritage in general, not just for our viewers, just everybody. This is not a joke to either one of us. We've been in this for the better part of 2.5 years now, and we're not going away.
Yeah.
We're not going away.
I want to thank everybody who has stuck around with us and supported us. We really appreciate it. 3 seasons of this information has educated both of us, has changed our lives.
Absolutely.
I am thankful to you for sticking around because, not everybody would want to go through this. We didn't expect it to.
I didn't. I've said it numerous times.
Either.
I didn't want to go through this.
But we didn't expect to have the response and the love and the support we've gotten. Yeah. And we truly appreciate it, and we love all of you guys. We truly mean that.
It's thanks to you guys. We're still doing this, by the way. Seriously.
He said it is because of you guys, all the messages we get, all the Instagram,
it's like, like, how do we stop?
Yeah,
like,
how do we stop
now?
Trust me, there are days where we are exhausted. We just don't want to deal with it at that time. But then we'll get a message, or even now, I'm running into people where they're like, "Hey, aren't you Vic from Mer Hersoner?" Yeah. Like, it's an amazing feeling, and it's not about popularity or this and that. It's just that means people are listening, people are learning.
When you do something of substance, I think there's no price tag on that.
Yeah.
There is no price tag on it.
Yeah. Hopefully, if everything works out, I'll be in Armenia in sometime in July. And I'm planning to...
I might join you.
Yeah. And I'm planning to actually vlog from there. So definitely we'll do some posts on YouTube. Plan is, if everything works out, if we end up going, is to pretty much travel throughout entire Armenia and experience it with the kids. But we'll see. But having said that, again, we are thankful for everything. It has been a great season 3. We've had some amazing guests. I want to thank all the guests who took the time out of their day to join us. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the content we've covered as far as the historical episodes that we do. And everybody, we want to wish you guys a great, safe summer. And I hope when we come back, our country is in a better place. And there's a lot of things that are happening, and hopefully Armenia can come out stronger and better at the end, because a lot is happening so fast, and hopefully it's for the best. And anything else you want to say before
we're going to be okay.
We're going to be okay.
I think we're going to be okay. I'm confident we're going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, God bless you all. God bless Armenia. God bless humanity. And as we always say, respect one another.
Love one another.
Until the next episode, take care of yourselves. And we mean that.